My name is Jazmin and I'm so grateful to be here and to share a bit of my journey with mental health with you guys. And it's my journey thus far. It's a never-ending one, but it's definitely, hopefully, something that can resonate with any of you. But, I think what was unique about my struggle with mental health was that I thought, or rather, I wasn't aware that I was struggling at all, right? So because this incredibly important conversation surrounding mental health for so long was stigmatized, I assumed that living anxiously was the norm and that we were all sort of like experiencing this roller coaster of being down and then finding some sort of fleeting peace and then that escaping us and dipping back under again. It's sort of like it gets dizzy to be dealing with your mental health, to say the least. And so when it became clear to me that something was off and that it was something I had to fix, I reflected on, when is the last time that I felt stable in my mental health? When did I feel at peace with myself? And I realized that I was sort of like the most aligned version of myself when I was a child, right? In my childhood, when I was a kid. And mind you, it wasn't a perfect childhood. I don't think anyone's really is, but I was safe within myself and I was safe within my mental health. And so I wondered why that was. I wondered if it was because of less responsibility, right? Less awareness of everything wrong in the world and politics. But while I think that certainly may have played a role and it remains true, I realized that the most important part of that whole experience was that I was present, right? So there was nothing to attain as a child, right? There was no status to acquire, and my worth wasn't placed in how others viewed me or how much success I was experiencing. Everything was living in my authenticity and what was right in front of me in that given moment. And so, reflecting on that, I realized that a lot of my emotional struggle stemmed from my habit of placing my validation and my happiness on things outside of me, my goals that I wanted to attain and versions of myself that I was so obsessed with becoming, right? So, career aspirations and even like physical body image goals. And now I reflect on and I'm like, how could I think I would be a better version of myself than who I was at that given moment? But I say all that to say that what made the happiness that I held on so tightly to every time I found it ultimately fleeting was the fact that it was based on things that weren't concrete, right? Accomplishments, relationships, things that were fluid and conditional. I wasn't bringing happiness with me. I was chasing it. And I think that's the secret, right? To sort of embody the happiness that you are seeking rather than seeing it as something far away and to obtain, right? And of course, a big accomplishment or relationship milestone would feel great in the given moment. But when you come back down from that high, you're ravenous for more and you become trapped on like that hamster wheel of chasing the next big triumph after the next big triumph until that doesn't please you or fulfill you anymore. And then it's just kind of this cycle, right? And so I just didn't allow myself to rest in my current reality because of how addicted I became to chasing what I was told was happiness instead of defining it for myself. And that had to change. So I had to make the active choice to change it for the sake of my mental health. And I did. I committed to doing it and I still commit to doing it. I began weekly therapy, which started off as talk therapy. And then I soon realized I think I need something a little bit more, though, therapy is something that is very individual. And so whatever works for you is whatever works for you as long as you are trying it out. So I shifted into doing EMDR therapy, which has completely changed my life. And I also built a committed spiritual practice, right? Finding a lot of peace in nature and what I define God to be. And ultimately just prioritizing my mental health and my physical health, which meant spending a significantly less amount of time on social media, definitely. Reviewing my friendships and, placing the friendships that upheld safety in me sharing my journey at the forefront, and sort of letting go of those that didn't. And where I'm at now is not exempt from emotional turbulence, right? It's never about ridding yourself of your anxious or depressive thoughts, but rather getting to the root of them first and foremost, and then finding a healthy way to cope with them. So now I'm in a place where I have the tools to respond to the emotions that show up, and I'm able to do my best at observing them instead of drowning in them and not identifying as my emotions, but rather building a healthy relationship with them. And ultimately, I create my own peace internally instead of seeking it externally, which is a lifelong journey and something that I think I will consistently and always constantly be working on, but something that I'm proud I'm at least adamant about doing. But what did the best job at shifting the tides was peer support, honestly, and talking about it amongst community, amongst community, especially community like No Stigmas, honestly. And yeah, and speaking of breaking the stigma behind struggling with my mental health, I firmly believe that conversation is the root of all healing, and that even when we feel the most isolated in our experiences, we're never alone in what we're experiencing, never ever. So, you are not alone, not even close. Mental health is something that does not discriminate any age, any race, any gender. And I can guarantee you that there are people out there on this journey alongside you, me included. And, I would say to utilize the countless resources that are available to you, find a safe space and share what it is that you are experiencing. And, realize and recognize the shame around it is something that's conditioned and something that's inherited, but it's not something that's true. And the way that we combat that is by standing in our truth and connecting to each other and allowing ourselves to see each other in each other. So, it's something that I'm working on and living every single day, but I found a lot of peace in knowing that I'm not striving for perfect. I'm simply just doing my best. And so, yeah, that's kind of my story. And I hope that resonates, or that any of you were able to see yourself in the story a bit.